two of the strongest ships ever built, 129 of the British Empire's finest men, equipped with technology that was meant to conquer the final frontier on Earth. They sailed into a white labyrinth and vanished. What happened to the Franklin expedition? Picture the scene. The Thames estuary, May 1845. The water is choppy, gray, flecked with the white of gulls, and there, cutting against the wind, two ships. Not just any ships. These are leviathans of oak and iron, their sails taut as drums, their black hulls gleaming with a grim purpose. On their decks, 129 men. Sailors, marines, officers, gentlemen. They wave to the shrinking shore, their breaths fogging in the spring air. They carry with them the absolute certainty of the greatest empire on Earth. They are equipped with the latest science, stocked for 3 years, destined for glory. They sail north, and then they simply cease to be. No signal, no wreckage, no final heroic dispatch. Just a silence that stretches from the Arctic ice all the way back to London, growing heavier with each passing season. One question echoes across that silence, a whisper that has become a shout over centuries. What happened to the Franklin expedition? This is not just a story of exploration. It is a story of disappearance, a mystery written in ice, blood, and lead. This is the enduring enigma of the lost Franklin expedition. To understand the scale of this vanishing, you must first understand the man and the moment. Sir John Franklin, a name that resonated in British drawing rooms and Admiralty halls. A veteran of Trafalgar, he had already led 2 arduous overland expeditions to the Canadian Arctic, earning the grim nickname the man who ate his boots. He was tough, respected, but by 1845, he was 59. Some thought him too old for this, his third and greatest command. But the Admiralty wanted a steady hand. The mission was the culmination of centuries of searching, the discovery and conquest of the Northwest Passage. This was the holy grail of maritime exploration, a direct sea route over the top of the world. For a trading empire, it would be a geopolitical masterstroke. The ships chosen were uniquely suited for the task: HMS Erebus and HMS Terror. These vessels had already proven their fortitude on a brutal 4-year voyage to Antarctica. For this mission, they were transformed into the most advanced polar exploration tools on the planet. Their hulls were sheathed in iron plate. They were fitted with steam locomotive engines, driving retractable propellers. They had central heating, libraries of over 1,000 volumes, and a 3-year supply of everything from classic literature to tinned food. The confidence was absolute. This was the Victorian era's apex, the triumph of industry, empire, and human will. They were not going to challenge the Arctic. They were going to subdue it. The journey begins. The departure was a spectacle. Crowds gathered, newspapers wrote glowing editorials. Lady Jane Franklin watched her husband sail towards his destiny. The journey north was initially straightforward. They stopped in Greenland to take on final supplies. Here, the crew wrote their last letters home, speaking of good health and excitement. 5 men, deemed unfit, were sent back, their letters providing the final first-hand accounts of the expedition in good spirits. In late July 1845, chance provided the last human contact. 2 whaling ships encountered the formidable shapes of Erebus and Terror in Baffin Bay. The captains dined together. Franklin, they reported, was in high spirits, hopeful of a rapid passage. After a brief exchange, the whalers went about their business, and Franklin's ships turned west into the labyrinth of the Canadian Arctic archipelago. The whaling masters watched them go, those dark hulls shrinking into the mist and ice. They had just shared a meal with the living past. Every man on those 2 ships was now walking a tightrope across an abyss, and they had just taken the step that removed the safety net. disappearance and silence. And then, the silence began. The Admiralty expected no news for at least a year. But by 1848, the 3-year mark, the meticulous supplies would be running low. The silence was no longer an absence. It had become a presence, a tangible, chilling fact. In London, the gears of Victorian bureaucracy began to turn, powered by growing public concern and the relentless lobbying of Lady Jane Franklin. The government offered a massive reward for information. What followed was the largest search and rescue operation the world had ever seen. Dozens of ships converged on the Arctic. Lady Jane spent her entire personal fortune funding search vessels. But the Arctic is vast, unimaginably vast. It is a landscape that distorts scale and swallows sound. The search parties found nothing. No masts, no messages. It was as if Erebus and Terror and the 129 souls aboard had sailed off the edge of the map. Search, efforts, and discoveries. The first crack in the ice came not from a British officer, but from an Inuit hunter on King William Island. This pattern would repeat itself. Their testimonies, gathered over years, painted a fragmented, horrifying picture. Kablunas, white men, dragging boats, silent camps, a ship locked in ice. For years, these stories were met with colonial skepticism. Then, in 1850, searchers found the expedition's first winter quarters on Beechy Island. 3 neat graves for young men who died in that first winter. It was a haunting, orderly ghost camp, a prologue to the true horror. The horror was revealed 9 years later. In 1859, a search mission funded by Lady Franklin found a cairn on King William Island. Inside was the only official record the dying men ever left. It was a standard Admiralty form, filled out twice. The first note from 1847 was triumphant, all well. But scrawled over every inch of remaining space, dated April 25, 1848, was the truth. HM ships Terror and Erebus were deserted. Sir John Franklin died on 11th June 1847. The 105 survivors, now led by Captain Crozier, were abandoning the ships to begin a death march south. Following this trail, searchers found a lifeboat on a sledge filled with tragic absurdities, silk handkerchiefs, button polish, a copy of The Vicar of Wakefield. And they found bones. Theories and explanations. The note was the what. The enduring mystery is the why. Why did such a well-provisioned expedition collapse so completely? Modern forensics points to a perfect storm of catastrophe. The ships were trapped for 2 brutal winters in crushing ice, a catastrophic delay. But the poison was already inside. The state-of-the-art canned food was sealed with lead solder. The crew would have been suffering from chronic lead poisoning, debilitating fatigue, pain, and madness. Imagine trying to survive an Arctic winter while your mind and body are betraying you. Scurvy likely returned. Botulism from spoiled meat was a possibility. The men were not just cold and hungry, they were sick, poisoned, and compromised. The final theory is perhaps the most tragic, a fatal cultural arrogance. The note said they were marching towards a fish-rich area known to the Inuit. But testimony suggests the starving men ignored vital survival techniques. They died within a landscape that could have sustained them, if only they had known how to ask. The end was a slow-motion unraveling, a symphony of technological failure, environmental fury, and human frailty. Modern discoveries. For generations, the wrecks were the Arctic's ultimate ghosts. Then, in 2014, using Inuit oral history and modern sonar, Parks Canada found the almost perfectly preserved wreck of HMS Erebus on the seabed. In 2016, the Terror was found further south, sitting upright, as if parked there. These were not shattered wrecks, they were tombs, sealed by the cold, dark water. The dives have been revelatory. Plates on shelves, a ceramic pot on a stove, a sealed desk that may yet hold secrets. These discoveries rewrite chapters. They suggest the ships were remanned after being abandoned, a desperate final bid for survival. Yet the core human mystery deepens. The ship's logs and diaries have likely dissolved. The why of the final days is now a forensic puzzle, assembled from artifacts, not words. We have found the bodies, but the final confession remains muffled by cold water and time, reflection and legacy. So why does this story, over 175 years old, still grip us? The Franklin expedition is a dark mirror to our own ambition. It represents the moment the unshakable Victorian faith in progress, technology, and empire met an immutable, crushing reality. It is a story of hubris, but also of profound human endurance. Their failure was our education. The massive search efforts literally mapped the Canadian Arctic. Ironically, it was the searches for Franklin that finally confirmed a viable Northwest Passage, the very thing he died trying to find. In the end, the legacy is dual. It is a cautionary tale about the limits of human control, about listening to the environments and peoples we seek to conquer. And it is a raw, human story of 129 men who walked into the white, and whose echoes we are still trying to hear in the silence they left behind. The wrecks are found. The artifacts are being studied. But the conversation is not over. With each new dive, a new question surfaces. So I put it to you. With what we now know of the lead, the ice, and the Inuit accounts, what do you believe was the single most decisive factor in the tragedy? Was it the poisoned food, the brutal environment, or a fatal failure to adapt? Share your perspective in the comments below. If stories that lie at the intersection of history, mystery, and the human condition compel you, please consider subscribing. We delve deep into the past, not just to learn what happened, but to understand why it still matters.